Brian Forsythe, how are you?
I'm great, actually.
I am very stoked that you're on this show. I know that my brother is probably going to have a conniption fit. He has been a fan of yours since before you guys were famous.
Wow.
You guys were grinding at the bit for the longest time, since what, 77?
That's when we first got together. And then
Right?
we got our record deal in 1981. So,
Yeah, 81 with
I
it
mean,
with
there was a little space in there where we were just like playing and playing and playing and playing. We built up a nice following that way, though.
that is downright spectacular. That's that's the way you got to do it when you're doing the band stuff. You guys for 4 years, and then you got signed with Warner Brothers with Atlantic Records.
Mm-hmm.
And then when did you release your first album? Do you remember what year that was? You released the first album?
Yeah, that was 1981.
That was 81 that you released the first album. You guys
Yeah.
went on the road to promote that album. Who were you performing with? What other band was with you when you were?
Well, in those early days, we were still in the clubs, basically. I mean, every once in a while, a band would come through Baltimore and they'd throw us on the bill. Like, I think our first big opening show was we opened for Iron Maiden and Judas Priest at the Baltimore Civic Center.
Oh, wow.
And that was right after our record first came out. And that was just a one-off.
Yeah.
And we did a few of those like that. And then we got sent out to the West Coast to do an official tour with Triumph, which was a complete mismatch. That did not work out well.
No. They were very different kind of genre to you guys. Yeah, I see you guys definitely with Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, a lot of, Quiet Riot. You guys did with Quiet Riot too, right?
Oh, we've done shows with them. Yeah, we've never done a whole tour with them or anything.
You've done shows with them, and you've done shows with Rat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Rat was the first official like full length tour that we ever got, and that was 1989. So that's how long.
Wow, that was a while there.
I mean, I'm talking about arenas with a tour bus and all that. I mean, we had done a few smaller tours, like we toured with the Romantics. Remember them?
Oh, now again, that's not a combination I would throw together, but I do remember the Romantics. Yeah, Talking in Your Sleep, and
and What I Like About You.
What I Like About You. I loved it because they initially released in I want to say 79 was their first album, was What I Like About You.
With the red leather.
With the red leather, yes. And
I bought that album cover just because it looked so cool. It's like, man, who are these guys?
They were great. Yeah, that was one of the first two albums I got. I got the Romantics and the Knack.
Oh yeah, that was another big one.
That was another good one. But you guys were. I'm more of an alternative guy, but I do appreciate your music. It's no secret to my audience that I was a former strip club DJ. So needless to say, I heard a lot of your music.
Well, that's
I heard a lot of deep cuts from Kitsch. But one of the all-time power ballads, man. Don't Close Your Eyes. That was a really, really great song. Yeah, and you had a lot of great songs, and I noticed myself personally as a guitar aficionado, you really love your telly.
Yes, that's my main workhorse.
That is your main workhorse, because I almost all the time I'm like, yeah, he's got it there. Yep, he's got it there. Oh wait, there's a Gibson, but okay, he's putting it down and picking up the telly again. Okay, he's back on the telly. We're good.
Well, it wasn't always that way. I didn't really start playing the telly till in the 1990s.
In the 90s?
Yeah,
oh, really? Yeah.
It was mainly Gibsons and a couple of PRSs here and there.
Oh.
Yeah. But I started out on a Les Paul, but I had this like mid-70s Les Paul Standard that in the early days, and that thing weighed a ton. And I finally I would bounce between that, and I have this little 61 Melody Maker, which is kind of lightweight. Mm-hmm. And I would use the Melody Maker in the studio all the time, but I'd use that Les Paul on stage. And then at some point I go, this Melody Maker is what's on the record. Why don't I just play it? And like this Les Paul is just too heavy.
Yeah, plus, that thing.
I kept breaking it too. The Les Pauls they're not roadworthy. I mean, they're easily broken. But that's what I like about the Telly. You can, I mean, I've taken that Telly in the regular old Fender case that it comes in, that rectangle. And just toss it on the luggage thing, and it goes through and comes out the other end, and it's still in tune.
It's still in tune, still fine. Well, you know, I have their acoustics, so I do like them. You guys are still, to this day, you guys are still out on the road, aren't you? You still have a huge following.
Well, up until a couple of months ago.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Right.
But you know, if you wanted to break out guitar lessons and over Zoom, you could easily do that, right? I mean, wait, I can play like Brian Forsythe? Oh yeah, man, you're still going to be fine. I think you'll be doing well.
Yeah, but that's the thing though with Kicks. It was like we sort of dissolved mid '90s. Like I left, initially left in '93, and then the band kind of staggered along for another 2 years, and then they kind of disbanded, and then we reformed in 2000, the end of 2003, right at the end, and it was a gradual takeoff, but the Baltimore area was like just immediate.
Oh yeah, of course. The hometown crowd is ecstatic because you're back. It's like, yeah, they're back. Yeah. So yeah, I totally get that.
It just took off from there, and it's like all those years of touring and the following that we built up, they all just came out of the woodwork, and they brought their kids with them.
Oh yeah, well, every reason too. It's like, okay, this is what good music sounds like, and you know, this is what music sounds like when you pay for it. Exactly, it's really good. But you know, you guys have been incredibly impressive, and there was a point. When did I'm hesitant to bring it up, but you know, you had a little trouble in the rock and roll lifestyle, didn't you?
Yeah, it was well, you know, being a rock musician, it sort of goes hand in hand, the whole alcohol, drugs, and you know, and through the '80s, it was like, well, the one thing that saved us was we took our job really serious. So we had this band rule: no drugs, no alcohol before or during the show, but afterwards, you know, it was like the party.
All bets are off.
So, you know, I'd be on stage, and, you know, I'd look out and see my Coke dealer out there, and then, you know, like start counting the songs on the set list, you know, like how many more do I have? So it was like, kind of like, I think because we sort of had to keep it under control for the longest time, it didn't get out of hand until I left the band. That's when everything. When I moved to LA, oof. You know, the weird thing was I was still in several bands at the time, like around LA. I was playing in a few different things here and there, and but yeah, the drugs. I joined a blues band because the singer harmonica player was my heroin dealer.
Oh, jeez.
So I joined this band so I could be closer to the dealer, you know.
Oh, good Lord.
It was a good band, though.
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that whole thing, by the end of the '90s, it got to where, I mean, I totally lost control, and that whole rule about not doing drugs when I play went out the window.
No.
So, you know, it was just 24 hours a day. And then finally, you know, the cops kind of stepped in and helped me. I mean,
well, you know, it's better the cops than the Grim Reaper is in Nikki Sixx's case, right? So
that is very true.
And as I mentioned to you before, I really think it has something to do with that black hair dye. You might have a lawsuit if you and Nikki Sixx get together. I think you can really go after. Is it Clairol? It might be Clairol.
I bounce around. I have used Clairol.
But you know, to get that official jet black, you know, rock icon look, you got to go with it. But it's always incredible. And you guys as I stated, you guys got back together, and every good relationship, I think, needs a little time apart to realize what you had together in order for it to really click. And you guys started clicking it back. You released, Kitsch released a new album back in 2013, right? You guys have something new coming up as well?
Well, that was our first our first new like studio record.
Right. Wheels in Motion, right?
Yeah, it might have been 2014, but it took us that long. I mean, we reformed in 2003, and it took us that long to finally like give into the pressure. Everybody going, "Hey,
when are you gonna make some new stuff?"
And we were just riding on the old songs, you know.
I mean, well, you had enough to do that. I mean, geez, right. You know, it's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't try to. But you know, but it was very solid material. You guys, did you guys shoot that? Did you guys shoot the video for Wheels in Motion at the Whiskey?
No, that was at the Rams Head Live in Baltimore. The
Rams Head. Well, it was. I was kind of like, is that the Whiskey? Because it kind of looked like the Whiskey for a second. I thought, no. Well, I'll ask him. But yeah. But it was very well done. And like you said, you know, you guys are one of the few bands that are still playing everything live, because a lot of bands, they'll pre-record stuff. They pre-record particular parts because it's just a little too complex to be getting into on stage. Do you guys do everything live? Is that correct? Am I correct in that?
Most of it. I mean, we'll do some percussion stuff sometimes.
Oh yeah.
You know, samples. And then the one song that we do have to do that on is Don't Close Your Eyes. We have the keyboards.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just because nobody plays keyboard. Well, our old bass player, the original bass player,
right? Yeah,
keyboards on that song.
Oh, yeah.
And I played this. I played a Roland synthesizer guitar on that song.
Yeah.
I bought the thing on a whim, and then it ended up getting incorporated into the set. So I played. Well, he played keyboards. I played bass guitar, like on the verses, and then I'd go to. It was one of those guitars where you could blend different sounds, or you could switch between guitar or you could even assign different strings to different sounds. So I would do the bass parts, and then I'd play the guitar, and then that song ended up being the hit. So then I couldn't ever get rid of that stupid synthesizer guitar. I was stuck playing it the whole rest of the time. So now when we came back around, since we don't have Donnie playing the keyboards, we just put that on the sample, and I can just play guitar now. So.
Well, there you go. That's passable. Okay, but for the most part, okay, for the most part, the entire show is live, with the exception of those particular parts, and even that, you're still doing what's necessary in order to make the sound.
Yeah,
it's not exactly. Then that's okay. That's fine. That's passable. Well, we won't slight you for that. I don't think anybody's going to be too upset. Now, you guys have been out. You guys were out on the road prior to the quarantine. Who were you guys on the road with?
We were just doing our own thing. It was like, well, we do a lot of. Nowadays, it's just fly dates. We fly out somewhere, do a couple of shows, and fly back. And our agency. Our booking agency he's this guy Sullivan Big. He specializes in 80s bands. So most of the bands on his roster are all from that era. So he'll put shows together with a few of us at a time. Like we'll do like Vegas casinos, and it'll be us and like Vince Neil or Slaughter or one of those bands, you know, from the 80s. Or another one we play with a lot is Great White and that band Vixen.
Vixen, yes, Edge of a Broken Heart, yes. Now that's another question I want to bring up. Out of all of your contemporaries, I see you're holding up incredibly well. I just want to point out how much I despise you for that, because you're I'm not going to lie, you're 7 years my senior, and you look like the younger guy here. And again, not too happy with you over that. But who else amongst your peers do you think has held up really well, that you look at and go, dang, dude, you still look great? You know, there's a few that obviously the test of time has not been kind to them, but there are a few you just got to go, hey, wow, what are you doing? Are you drinking virgin blood?
Well, actually, most, I mentioned Vixen.
Yeah.
They've kind of aged well. I think one of them died though. But like, Cher, the bass player, she still looks great. In fact, some of the, like in Roxy, the drummer.
Oh yeah.
And then there's other bands like Nuno Betancourt.
Oh yeah.
He looks the same as he always does. That guy just never changes.
Oh yeah, and just unbelievable, but great. And you mentioned him. Now I'll ask you the next question: what guitar players have you ever played with? And gone? Oh, why am I playing on a show with this guy? This guy's insanely good, and I'm like, you're really good, but I'm saying, every one of us has our insecurities about. It's like, what's he doing there? I can't. How do you make your fingers move like that?
Well, Nuno is one of those guys.
Yeah, I figured he was.
I mean, I'm a product of like the 60s and 70s. So,
oh yeah,
I'm more of a classic rock blues guy.
Oh yeah.
But, so I never got into the wheedly deedly finger tapping stuff. But
yeah,
when I watch Nuno, it's like, I just watch him and I go like, it just goes so far over my head, and I'm like, I don't even know how you'd ever even get to that level. Like it baffles my mind.
That's a perfectly awesome answer to that question. That's great. Wow. There's like a billion things that like go through my mind asking about that. What was the wildest show you ever did? And wildest as in a really good way, or by the same token, a show that you pray you never have to go back there for.
Oh, well, yeah, there's a lot of really horrendous ones back in the early days.
Oh yeah.
Back in the club days. And there's a few bigger ones too.
Yeah.
One of the very early ones was in Warrington, Virginia. We used to play this place. It was called Cross Creek, and it was a biker bar.
Oh.
And it was like this. It was off of this like 2-lane highway. Like you have to take a dirt road across a creek, hence the name. and there was this just dilapidated cinder block building in the woods, and they didn't have proper bathrooms. They had like a building out back with separate restrooms back there, and it was horrendous. And the inside was all cinder block and cement. So it sounded terrible, and wood beams.
Oh.
So we get this crazy crowd in there, like rednecks and bikers. And I mean, they'd be hanging from those beams.
Oh.
It was crazy. I remember one time we were playing and this guy's climbing up and we had the cables for the lights wound around the beam. And this guy's hanging on the cables. And I'm like, what is he doing? So I'm up there kicking the guy out, trying to get him to fall off. And and at one point, I mean, this is a story I've told before. It's probably been in a few interviews, but there was it was the first show that our singer, Steve, and we got Steve and our sound man at the same time because our sound man at the time was Steve's bass player in the band that we stole Steve from. So this is one of the early, like very first shows that Steve and our sound man did at this place, Cross Creek.
At Cross Creek, yeah. And
we're halfway through the set and this big biker guy comes in, and I didn't see it. I found out after the fact, but he had like either a baseball bat or an axe handle, some big wood stick thing. And he comes in there and he starts just beating our soundboard with it. And luckily our soundboard had a wooden frame around it, so that got most of the brunt of the hitting. Oh, thank goodness. But it turns out that this guy, he was some biker, and it was part of his initiation. I don't know what exactly he was supposed to do when he came in there, but he did that, and then he staggered back outside, and then I guess there was some confrontation out there, and he ended up getting shot.
Oh.
So, I mean, that's the kind of club this was.
No, jeez. I've been in a few divey places over the years, but still, that's
and we've also done the whole getting booed off stage thing too, opening for bands like the Triumph tour, for example.
Well, yeah, well, Triumph always. How do I just even I, with my wide diverse taste in music, go Triumph.
Yeah, right. Right. And we tried to keep an open mind, and it was our first real tour. But the very first show, it was in Seattle,
Yeah.
And this was back in, well, 81. And for some reason, I guess the security was a little more lax in those days. So they let people bring in bottles and cans. And so they were winging that stuff at us. So we're up there, we get partway through the set and stuff. I mean, it started flying pretty much immediately. I mean, not only like beer bottles, beer cans, quarters. They'd wing these quarters like at full speed. And finally, our bass player got hit, and our drummer got hit, and Ronnie, the other guitar player, got hit in the ankle with like a pint bottle of. Well, it was empty, but it was
but still
Jack Daniel's bottle.
Yeah.
So finally, we finally just gave up, and we had to make a run for it. And I remember as we were leaving the stage, Triumph's monitor guy was over on the side, running the stage monitors.
Yeah.
He was on his back, out cold on the floor. He had gotten hit with something. We didn't even notice that, but we had to step over him to get off the stage.
Oh man. Well, you wouldn't have had those problems if you'd opened for Chilliwack.
Chilliwack.
You remember Chilliwack?
No.
Really? Are you gonna make me sing their only song? Gone, gone, gone. She been gone so long. She been gone, gone, gone so long.
I know the song. I just didn't know the name of the band. I'm sure if I saw the name spelled out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't make me sing the whole song. I'll do it. Okay. I'm warning you right now, Brian. Just a heads up. So Triumph was Triumph. Ooh. Oh wow.
Well, not only did their crowd hate us, but they hated us.
Oh,
that was a really rough tour, and we only lasted for five shows. 5 shows,
yeah.
And then they kicked us off. But the problem was we worked our way down from Seattle down the coast.
Right.
By the time we got to Oakland, the crowd was starting to warm up to us, and I don't think Triumph appreciated that, so they finally gave us the boot. But they were sabotaging us. Like their roadies.
Oh yeah.
They would unplug stuff. Like we'd be playing, and all of a sudden the other guitar player's amp would just go off, and we'd find the plug just laying there next to the outlet. Like the guy just pulled it. And then one time we're playing, and the roadie walks just nonchalantly, just right across the stage.
Right across, dude.
I was just like, "What are you doing?"
That's just horrible.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite band to tour with? Who'd you go like? Oh man, we're gonna tour with these guys. I love them. You were totally simpatico with them. They were the guys that they were like almost an extension of your band.
Well, Rat was really they were cool because they treated us like one of them.
Yeah.
They didn't. They didn't just ban us to our dressing room. But another good, this was a tour with 2 other bands. This was in, in 98.
Mm-hmm.
We did Great White and Tesla. We did like this. It was like an amphitheater tour. And
nice.
That was really good. And they were all, like we hung out together. Because sometimes when you open for bigger bands, you don't get really to hang out. You can say hi.
Yeah, but you guys are all on equal footing at that point. Tesla and and Great White, and 98. So that was before that Rhode Island fire. That was before that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
That was just devastating. Yeah.
I'm surprised that hadn't happened sooner. Especially back in the late 70s.
Oh yeah.
A lot of, especially on the East Coast, like the New Jersey bands.
Oh,
they were
yeah.
big into pyro back then. And they'd have some goofy, their roadie,
Yeah.
They just found like it was some guy down the street.
Some random guy. Hey, dude, you want to be a roadie? Yeah. Hey, sure.
Loading flash pots with gunpowder. It's like no license, no nothing. They're just out there pouring the stuff in there.
Oh my goodness. Well, you've survived your rock and roll lifestyle. You're doing very well. And you've now taken up residence in Nashville, which is musician heaven, because you have a lot of neighbors, and Nashville is not just country music anymore. There are a lot lot of have you run into any of your old stomping buddies around the area?
Yeah, in fact, when the reason I left California, I mean, I loved California. I loved the weather out there and all that stuff. But this girl that I had been in a relationship with for like 25 years, it just came to the end, and we split up, and she owned the house. So it was like, it was all of a sudden, okay, well, now what am I going to do? I guess, all these years that we were in this house, I thought I was helping her with a mortgage payment. Turned out I was just paying rent. So I get to the end of that, I'm like, oh man, I don't want to just keep paying rent somewhere. So I thought, I've got to buy my own house. That's the only way that makes sense. And then I started looking around at LA, and it was just like, oh
no, you're not. If you're,
it was just insane. It was like, there's no way. So I had all these musician friends that had left LA and gone to Nashville.
Right.
And they kept saying, hey man, you should check out Nashville. Hey, you should check out Nashville. It's really affordable. You should check out Nashville. Yeah. So I did. I got on, first I got on some of those real estate sites where you can sort of poke around. And then I took I found a bunch of different things to look at in different areas, and one of them was Antioch. Antioch's
a little sketchy these days, is my understanding. It's like, when I lived there, it was really, it was nice and everything. But my understanding is, Antioch is now where the other mall, as Chris Rock used to call it, is.
Well,
other.
Well, that was a thing. I found houses, and then I took a week, and I came here, and I drove to those places. So I found out what I like when I got there. I was like,
Exactly. Yeah. But it was it was fairly nice when I lived out there. That's not my understanding anymore. But you got moved over to the area, but and I appreciate you're trying to avoid Antioch, but did you have to go so far away that you're so far from the only Trader Joe's in your neighborhood? In Nashville, because I think it's over in Green Hills, off Hillsborough.
Right. Well, yeah, that was the thing. I lived in Eagle Rock out in LA, and I could walk to Trader Joe's.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you were talking about your neighborhood, and back in Eagle Rock, and of course, you got Casa Bianca there, which is hands down one of the best pizza joints in Southern California.
Yeah, the people love that place. You know what? I didn't really care for it that much.
You didn't?
Yeah.
This conversation's over, Brian.
Sorry.
Brian? Oh.
No, people swear by that place. In fact, and there was always a crowd of people waiting to get in out front. I mean, it was crazy.
Well, it really depends on the pizza you get there, because but they're because they do make their own sausage, so the sausage pizza is always really good.
Well, see, I wasn't eating meat when I was when I went there, so maybe that had.
Yeah, well, speaking of eating, you're like the keto king. Is that
carnivore now?
Oh, you're a carnivore. Oh, you're back on. Yeah.
I started out. Well, I was pescatarian for years.
Yeah.
And then I went keto, but I was still pescatarian, but doing it keto style, which is high fat, low carb.
Yeah.
And I joined all these keto groups on Facebook, and people post their food pictures and all this, and I started seeing all these pictures that involve bacon, and I'm like, oh man, that looks good. And I hadn't eaten bacon in years. And for some reason, I guess it just kept grating at my mind. And, but through keto, I discovered, I got into nutrition, and I started following all these different like doctors and researchers, and I started learning about like meat and how good that is for you. Like, that's what what humans are really supposed to eat.
Yeah.
So I finally made the jump. And I think I tried bacon first, was the first meat. And then right after that, I went to the store and bought this humongous ribeye and cooked it.
Oh, well, there you go. And my understanding is you actually do videos of cooking online? You have cooking videos?
On YouTube, yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, and where would somebody who's watching this interview go to check out what's your webpage? Is it Brian Forsythe?
Well, actually on YouTube, the funny thing is I started doing it just goofing around. So my YouTube channel is just Brian Forsythe. I don't even have a name. I haven't even come up with a name for it yet.
Well, hey, that's cool, man. And that works out. And, you know, again, check out your actual cooking because, you know, I hear you're quite the foodie. What are your personal favorite dishes to fix up? What can you now fix with your eyes closed?
Well, you know, it's funny because even before I was doing videos, like way back in the keto days, or even before, I used to love taking photos of my food. But there's a lot more variety back then. Now that I'm carnivore, there's not a whole lot of variety. It's like it's pretty much the same things except just rearranged in different combinations.
But do you have like a favorite dish that you do as well as you play guitar?
Well, my favorite meal is a ribeye steak. But
is a ribeye? Well, of course, it just goes without saying.
But I've been getting into smoking the meat.
Oh yeah.
And I love doing like the ribeye roast, which is a prime rib.
Right.
I love that because I've gotten really good at it. And then just recently, early on, I tried to do a brisket. It was a fail. So I was like leery about trying to do another one because they're expensive. You know, I didn't want to mess up another nice piece of meat. But now that I've done a few of those ribeye roasts, like perfectly, I did a brisket. Like it was probably 2 weeks ago or so. Nice. And it turned out it was better than like the best brisket I've had at like a Texas barbecue place.
Well, that is a big claim.
Oh, it was like it couldn't have been more perfect. I was like. I don't know. I don't even know how to to say. I mean, I was so surprised. I had no idea that it would turn out that good.
That is nice. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to hold you to that. I'm going to hold you to that challenge, and I'm going to come taste that in Nashville. For now, I'm letting you go. I've had a wonderful time talking to you, Brian, and I really appreciate your coming on to our little show here, man.
It was fun.
Well, thank you. Well, it was fun for me. I was just ecstatic, and I'm very proud of myself for not just going fangirl all over you. So,
oh, I got to show you before we go. Let me just show you one thing. I'm going to walk over here.
Okay.
This is what. Can you see those?
Oh,
those were marrow bones.
Right. Yeah.
That I used in my meal. So now I'm going to take those bones, and I just so you have a visual. Let me take the lid off this thing. I haven't put the liquid in yet, but there's more bones. Like I say when I cook.
You're making bone broth?
Yeah.
You're rocking the bone broth.
Yeah. Oh. So I'm starting that later on tonight and let it go for a couple days.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, save me a jar, and we'll talk next time, Brian. It was wonderful talking to you. Brian Forsythe, everyone.
Thanks.